This video is made up of two parts. The first part is about the god Dionysus himself, and the second part ties this video to modern practice of psychopathology and how modern humans view the possession of Dionysus. Please consider supporting the channel by subscribing and liking the video. Let's begin. The master of wine, Dionysus, was the Greek god of wine and intoxication, who brought clarity, wisdom and freedom to the world through music, dance and drama. The god of wine and winemaking, passion and fertility, music and dance, Dionysus represented the spontaneous and unrestricted aspects of the human experience. Known as the liberator, Dionysus produced euphoric states that freed his followers from both the constraints of society and their own inhibitions. Wherever music inspired dance, wherever wine led to revelry, wherever religion sparked ecstasy, Dionysus was thought to be at work. Though he is often shown with his symbolic grapes of wine, Dionysus' symbols also include the snake and the phallus. Dionysus was adapted from religious traditions of non-Greek peoples in the greater Mediterranean world. Though he was recognized as a foreigner thanks to his origins, Dionysus was still widely worshipped within Greek society. Perhaps better than any other deity of the Olympian pantheon, Dionysus and his status indicate the depths of religious syncretism in ancient Greece. He lived on in the Roman world under the name Bacchus, and aspects of him have survived in other Near East religions as well, including Christianity. When it comes to etymology, the name Dionysus was first recorded on Mycenaean tablets from the 12th or 13th century before Christ. There is no consensus as to the exact meaning, but most philologists believe the word is rooted in Dio, the possessive form of the name Zeus. The latter part of his name may be derived from the Mount Nysa, where the infant Dionysus was thought to have been raised by nymphs known as the Naiads. When put together, Dionysus probably meant something like the Zeus of Nysa. When it comes to family, like the Egyptian god Osiris, from whom he took inspiration, Dionysus was twice born. His first mother was Persephone, the daughter of Demeter and consort of Hades, who lived half her life in the underworld. His second mother was Semele, princess of Thebes and the daughter of the goddess Harmonia and the mortal Cadmus. Though Dionysus had two different mothers, Zeus was his father in both instances. Dionysus sired children with many women, both mortal and divine. His most productive relationships were with Aphrodite, goddess of sensual love and beauty, and Ariadne, princess of Crete and daughter of the legendary king Minos. The two births of Dionysus. The mythos of Dionysus centers around his two births. Though the stories describing those births are written in different traditions and scattered across many centuries, in the broadest telling, the god who would become Dionysus was born to Zeus and Persephone of the underworld. According to Orphic tradition, Persephone had a child with Zeus, who slipped into the underworld in the guise of snake. Sources referred to this child as Zagreus and sometimes Liber. Zagreus would not live long, however. During the Titanomachy, the cataclysmic struggle between the Olympians and the Titans for control of the cosmos, Zagreus was slain by the Titans and chopped into pieces. According to Latin writer Gaius Julius Hyginus, after Zeus had claimed victory over the Titans, he reassembled the pieces of his lifeless son. Zeus then put Zagreus' torn heart into a potion and gave it to Semele, a mortal priestess of his cult in whom he had become infatuated. Semele drank the concoction and became pregnant. When Hera caught wind to the affair, she sought vengeance. She appeared to Semele in the form of an old crone and told the priestess that her lover was secretly the mighty Zeus in disguise. Curious, Semele approached the disguised Zeus and asked him to grant her a wish. Ignorant of Semele's suspicions, Zeus agreed to grant any wish that was in his power to fulfill, and she asked him to approach her in his true form. Reluctantly, Zeus agreed, and Semele immediately perished, for death fell upon any mortal who saw a god or goddess in their true form. Zeus rescued the child from Semele's womb and sewed it into his thigh, as Nonnus writes in the epic poem dedicated to mythos of Dionysus. Zeus the father received Dionysus after he had broken out of his mother's fiery lap and leapt through the delivering thunder's half form. He sewed him in his manly thigh, while he waited upon the light of the moon which was to bring him to birth. Then the hand of Cronides guiding the birth was his own midwife to the soon-up child, by cutting the laboring threads in his broad forth, but not in a mother's way. Having passed from a mother's womb to a father's, no sooner had he peeped out by his divine delivery, than the child-bed Caesar crowned him with an ivy garland in presage of things to come. They wreathed the horned head of bull-shaped Dionysus with twining horned snakes under the flowers. He also appointed the wizened elder Silenus to tutor the young man. Dionysus' upbringing in a distant land, his absence from Mount Olympus, and his status as the only major deity to have a mortal mother all made him a foreigner in the eyes of the gods. Dionysus as the frenzied god of wine. It was on Mount Olympus that Dionysus first mastered the cultivation of grapevines and the making of wine. Hera rewarded him by striking him with madness and leaving him to wander the mortal world. During his travels, he went to Phrygia and spread wine cultivation to all he encountered. Unsurprisingly, wine and drunkenness figure prominently in the mythos of Dionysus. In one famous story, Dionysus' mentor Silenus became inebriated and wandered off, only to find himself in the garden of great King Midas. The king welcomed Silenus to his court, where he was wined and dined for days. When Midas at last returned Silenus, Dionysus offered him anything his heart desired as a reward. Midas wished that anything he touched will turn to gold, thus the king acquired his famous Midas touch in the graces of Dionysus. When all else failed, Dionysus used wine to persuade the unwilling, as he did with Hephaestus. Shortly after Hephaestus' birth, the blacksmith had been expelled from Mount Olympus by his own mother Hera, who was repulsed by his malformed foot. Seeking revenge, Hephaestus devised a trap for his mother, a chair with a hidden mechanism that ensnared Hera when she sat in it. Anxious to free her and restore order among the Olympian deities, the god sent Dionysus to fetch Hephaestus. When Dionysus found the outcast, they drank wine and made merry. When Hephaestus was good and drunk, Dionysus carried him back to Mount Olympus on the back of a mule. Dionysus won his love Ariadne of Crete with the help of wine. One day, Dionysus was walking along the shore when he was abducted by pirates who believed him to be a prince. Biding his time, Dionysus allowed the ship to set sail, only to transform the masts of the vessel into crawling grapevines that dripped with sweet wine, intoxicating the crew. He then transformed himself into a lion and devoured the entire crew, save the helmsman, who steered Dionysus to the island of Naxos. There he discovered Ariadne, who had been taken to the island by her abductor, the mortal hero Theseus, after he had slain the Minotaur. Dionysus fell in love with Ariadne immediately and soon married her. When she died, he set her crown into the heavens, creating the Corona constellation in her memory. Dionysus in religion. The mythology of Dionysus was formed not only through static myths and stories, but also via the lived religious experiences of his many worshippers in the Greek world and beyond. To worship Dionysus was to experience Dionysus. Dionysus was one of the most popular of Greek deities, and his cult was observed through a variety of festivals. Among them were the Eleusinian mysteries, the rituals of decay and renewal held in honor of Persephone and Demeter, and the Dionysia, a festival featuring dramatic performances where participants would indulge in bread and wine and carry wooden phalluses. Where the cult of the wine god truly thrived, however, was in the festivals known as the Bacchic or Dionysian mysteries. Fueled by wine, music and dance, Dionysian mysteries brought worshippers together in frenzied or orgiastic celebrations that freed them from social inhibitions. Many participants wore masks to disguise themselves, and it was said that Dionysus himself would often appear among the throngs. Through a combination of heavy intoxication and religious ecstasy, worshippers would feel the true nature of Dionysus. Today, a person that ancient Greeks would describe as possessed by Dionysus, we call an alcoholic, a manic-depressive, a schizoid. The nominalistic approach of scientific faculties failed to come near the Greek vision of the psyche and its pathologies. The whole practice of psychopathology came down to mastering the technical vocabulary which labels people without going into the depths of the affliction itself. This practice of labeling and categorizing stretches all the way to the Enlightenment and its dream to classify the world of the mind itself like the world of animals and plants. As these schools used different terms, there was a famous disagreement between the Germans and the French in regards to hysteria. The Germans argued that it could only appear in women because the word hysteria meant uterus, while the French argued that they would find cases of hysteria in men too. The response of Germans was that this said more about the French men than hysteria itself. In the book Revisioning Psychology, James Hillman states, "So we discovered that the classificatory approach denies with its left hand what its right hand is doing. While obsessively busy with psychopathological terms, the nominalistic denial is not fundamentally concerned with psychopathology, with the nature, reasons, or meanings of the afflictions. Its terms are without inherent psychic necessity, for they refer neither to what a person has or what a person is. The words refer to nothing beyond descriptions, and the descriptions describe nothing real. There may be no underlying pathology, no actual illness at all. A logic of descriptions is appropriate for inanimate, depersonified things for the world of science, but psychopathology refers to the world of soul. Words used for describing its afflictions require a subjectivity which expresses and contains the painful and bizarre complaints of the soul if they are truly to conform to what they claim to describe. For this, we need an archetypal psychopathology. Until one can discover the archetypal persons in these words, giving them psychological significance by connecting syndromes to archetypes, nominalism will fill its empty terms by personalizing them with actual people. And indeed, this is the case, for the terms so arbitrary and so empty are attached to persons who, by so becoming alcoholics, suicidals, schizophrenics, homosexuals, seem thereby to substantiate the words, giving through their visible persons an empirical psychic reality to the terms. The terms acquire substance from the bodies they name. They live parasitically from their instances. These cases of paranoid depression, of acute psychotic episodes, of hysterical personality, empirically confirm and justify the terminological system. Labels like psychopath or manic-depressive, while bringing intellectual clarity, also seal off in closed jars the content of what is named, and the person so named is relegated to a shelf-marked abnormal psychology. This is it for today's video. I'm interested in your experience of Dionysus himself, so please write in the comments your thoughts. Thank you for rebuilding Olympus.